bigot, what would his policy look like? And when we looked at the policies, we looked at NSSM. And we realized that we were trying to control the population of the third world, but we weren't trying to control the population of Britain or Germany or France. And we would never think about tying food and foreign aid to those countries to the control of their population. So we said, what would happen to a continent of color if the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, was a bigot? And that was NSSM 200. And then a day later, they studied NSSM 201, which increased arms sales to Africa. Right. And the rest, as they say, is history. We flooded the continent with weapons. And they knew, as a result of this study, that if we did that, that African leaders would stop trying to build bridges and roads and hospitals and start arming themselves against another African leader with a gun, because we were selling to both sides, and then we watched them kill each other off.
That's very, very sad. And talking about, selling to both sides and looking at them killing each other, this reminds me of Samuel Doe.
Right.
You see, he killed, you were talking about, say, if you kill George Washington, it's like killing Patrice Lumumba, and then Benjamin Franklin is like Kwame Nkrumah,
right.
And then Jefferson is Tolbert.
Right.
Now look at Samuel Doe. He murdered 25 brains.
Right.
And then just after that, when he came to the U.S., they hailed him. You see, and this doesn't really make sense.
It does if the underlying premise of the film was the fact that there was this attitude. And it was not only an attitude in the White House, where the president referred to Africans as just out of the trees with spears. It was also on the part of the American people. Remember, one of the most popular movies of the time was Tarzan. You know, and here you have a movie that involves a white man that swings from tree to tree, that can't read a bulletin, but he is the most powerful man in an entire continent. All he has to do is yodel, and every animal comes to his rescue. And in those films, the Africans were ignorant. You know, they were savages, and they were pygmies. And Tarzan beat all of them. Well, that was the attitude. And that's what we were saying. But it wasn't just an attitude among white Americans. There is an attitude among African Americans that, well, they must have done something wrong, or the continent would look differently. Well, Africa found itself in the crosshairs of the most powerful nations on the planet. On one side, you had the United States wanted it, and on the other side, you had the Soviet Union wanted what it had. And then you had China wanted what it had, and the British, and the French, and no continent can withstand that much external pressure. That's why we tackle the attitude.
So with the government of America having this attitude towards Africans, and yet writing policies for Africans, is this not going to be detrimental to the growth of Africans? Just like you said, that if the title of your book, The Poultry Ban Rules, you see, you break it, you fix it, and yet they've still not fixed anything, and it looks like they are still encouraging this.
That's because Africa is trapped in its past, and America doesn't look back. And those two are a deadly combination. You know, what happened is we did the same thing to Iran. Yeah. We did the same thing in Iraq. We did the same thing in South and Central America. Well, they're still stuck in the past trying to fix what's broken, and we're moving forward. You know, we've landed on the moon. We've moved on. We've elected an African-American president. What I argue in the film is, this is the damage that was done. We need to go back and fix it, and we need to do in Africa what we did in Europe. We need a Marshall Plan for Africa, which is that businesses go in and rebuild the infrastructure of Africa with the same emphasis that they gave to supplying the continent with guns. That instead of flooding the continent with bullets, we flood it with butter, you know, and bread, and we rebuild that which is broken. And then we see what Africa looks like. You know, I tell people when I speak now, the world marveled at China in the last Olympics. And nobody asked, why didn't Africa host an Olympics? And why is Africa, when you look at it from space, literally now, the dark continent? Because there are no lights on the planet, on the continent. So those are the things that we raise in the book, and those are the things that we raise in the film.
Yeah, I saw it when I was watching the film. You could see that all these continents were lighted. You see, they were lit, but Africa was so dark, and it really broke my heart.
That plays every night in the background of CNN. And it's one of those things where, when we talk about the attitude, in the book I set forth the premise that killing in Africa has become acceptable. And I'll give you an example. When the movie Blood Diamonds came out, everybody talked about blood diamonds, but nobody remarked about the fact that there were people in the first 15 minutes of that film, there were little kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, running from people with guns. And nobody said, what is the psychological impact on the African children that were part of that film? Well, that's part of the problem, is that we now don't pay any attention to Africa because we've become so used to the fact that there must be something wrong there. And when I went, when I went to Liberia, I didn't see a Monrovia that was blighted. I saw streets that once were paved and buildings that were shells, which meant that there was a building there. And I wondered, well, what did it look like when? And that's why the one thing that we did in the film that I'm very proud of is we went back and we showed you what it looked like before and after. So you see, for instance, I think it's Tolbert doing the Grand Marche. And that is the Grand Marche or Grand March? Grand March. So you see him doing that. And that let people know that there was a society here. And it was a very pleasant society. Now, it had problems. All societies have problems. But not to the extent that Americans have come to associate with either Liberia or Sierra Leone or the Congo or any other place for that matter.
When we come back, we have more interesting discussions. So please stay put.
Coco. Contemporary African fashion and designs by Coco. Designs that make a statement while embracing the African culture. Coco. Sexy, elegant, youthful. Coco. African motif with contemporary flair. Coco. Extraordinary designs by Coco. Visit African Design Boutique and Gift Shop at 395 Garrisonville Road in Stafford, Virginia. Coco. The Film and Video Works is a full-service video production company serving the greater Washington, D.C. area for over 8 years. From script to screen, we will manage your project with the ultimate care and professionalism. Part of our service include television commercials, corporate, industrial, and broadcast productions, feature filmmaking, and weddings. Whatever your video project, we can help. The Film and Video Works lead videographer and director is Jomo Stubblefield, who has spent over 10 years as a videographer and photojournalist with NBC and ABC News. Call the Film and Video Works today at 703-895-3147.
Available now, African Lifestyle TV presents Up Close and Personal, exclusive interviews with the Nollywood superstars. Get yours today at any and all African markets.
B&M Boutique is your one-stop shop for everything African, fashion for the entire family. Beautiful African textiles at wholesale prices. Thousands of African movies with new titles daily. B&M Boutique is Africa Central, with a large collection of beauty and fashion accessories, calling cards, moneygrams. B&M Boutique, 674 South Pickett Street at the corners of South Pickett and Van Dorn Streets in Alexandria, Virginia. Call today, 703-212-2037.
Advertise your business on African lifestyles and reach the African community. For more information, call 703-896-6212 or visit us on the web at AfriLifeTV.com. African Lifestyles, connecting business and community.
It's been a pleasure to welcome Liberian Head of State Samuel K. Doe on his first visit to the United States. It's especially fitting that we should be meeting this year as the United States and Liberia celebrate 120 years of diplomatic relations.
When Reagan embraced Doe at the White House, Americans weren't able to evaluate that, nor could they separate it out of the sort of long flow of inaccurate and racist information that we've been fed about Africa. I had ever heard of Doe or Tolbert, or that it was democratic, or how it was founded, or what Monrovia was, or what relationship it had to James Monroe and American history. Nobody knew anything about that. All we saw was that some Africans executed some other Africans at the waterside. And there was Reagan receiving the guy who'd done the executions.
Welcome back. We are still discussing with Del Waters his new book, The Pottery Barn Rules. So Del, what do you want people to take out of this book when they read it, and then the film, Apocalypse Africa?
I want the book and the film to be records. And I want people to look at them and say that this is not conjecture. This is not conspiracy theory. The book contains the actual documents, the prints of when the government said that we're going to assassinate Patrice Lumumba, that document's in there. There is a listing of all the coups d'etats that took place in Africa. It fills up 3 pages. There is a listing of all the death tolls in Africa. It fills up 2 pages. You know, I want people that whenever they think about what happened in Africa, that they pick up this book and they realize that this is the truth. You know, I want them to understand that this isn't an opinion. This is what happened. So these are the policies. These were the discussions that took place behind the scenes. Gerald Ford, for instance, says in one of the conversations when they were talking about Angola, what is the white population? So you get a feeling of what really happened inside the Oval Office. And I want people to realize that when they go to Fence Post Publishing and they pick up a copy of this book, that's what they're getting. Or they buy a copy of the film. If their children, they don't think their children are going to read a book, show them the film. And I always tell people when I go to speak, if you show the film, show it to 10 of your friends. And then have 10 of your friends show it to 10 of their friends. Because we don't need broadcast networks to get the word out anymore. We have the internet and we have shows like this that now we can get the message out unfiltered to the people that need it the most.
Right. Thank you very much, Del. It's been a wonderful time talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, the title of the book is The Pottery Barn Rules. See you next time. Okay.
For information how you can obtain the film Apocalypse Africa and the Pottery Barn Rules, visit our website at afrilifetv.com and follow the link.